The New York Rangers are definitely not a team that are known for drafting and developing players at a high level, of course, but as of late, over the last kind of 3, 4, 5 years now, it feels like the Rangers have started to do a better job of drafting players and, developing certain ones. Obviously, there have still been many busts and still been many players that haven't hit their potential, but it does feel like the Rangers have started to do a bit better of a job compared to what they've done in past years of drafting and developing, but especially drafting, as right now, although a year or two ago the prospect pool was pretty depleted, I think they've done a pretty good job over the last while now of kind of adding to it. And obviously it's still lacking some very high end kind of talented players in certain areas, but I think overall there's a pretty good kind of depth in this prospect pool. There's some pretty talented players as well in the mix. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at a bit of an update for all of these New York Rangers prospects that are currently in this system, whether they're at the college level playing in the NCAA, whether they're playing in the CHL, in the OHL, QMJHL, WHL, whatever it is, or whether or not they're playing over in Europe or in the AHL, of course, with the Hartford Wolfpack as well. So that's, of course, what we're going to take a look at in today's video. So let's just get right into it here. And we're going to start off by taking a look at the Hartford Wolfpack, who unfortunately have not had a very good start to this season. As of right now, the Wolfpack are currently sitting in 26th place in the entire AHL. They have 13 games played, a 3-6-4 record with 10 total points, and having a points percentage of 0.385, which obviously is not good at all. They also only have 32 goals for and 40 goals against, which if you take a look at where those kind of numbers rank in the league right now, they are 25th in goals for and tied for 19th in goals against. So they're not doing very well offensively. They're not doing too well defensively, and just in general, they're not winning many games. So this Hartford Wolfpack team that is loaded with a bunch of prospects are obviously not off to a very good start, unfortunately. So let's take a look at the Hartford Wolfpack kind of Rangers prospects, and then we'll take a look at the rest of the prospects playing elsewhere after that. So starting off here, the top point producer was, of course, Gabe Perreault, who now is up with the Rangers at the NHL level, but he did have 10 points there, 5 goals, 5 assists in only 9 games played, so not bad at all. Then you see the next highest point producer being Dylan Rubrek, who is down at 7 points in 13 games played. Not too bad at all. He's a big 6'7", pretty skilled player, of course. Can play center or wing. Obviously has that good size there, which the Rangers have started to draft a lot of as of late. He's one of many players like that, but 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 points there in 13 games played is not bad at all. Of course, the Wolfpack are not a phenomenal team, so I don't think we're going to see too many prospects with crazy numbers by the end of the season. So I think if he can stay around that kind of, 0.5 points per game mark, that won't be too bad at all. Next up here, we've got Bryce McConnell-Barker, who is a 6'2", former third-round pick of the Rangers, and he is a pretty solid center prospect. He's a good 2A player, good defensively, penalty-killing guy, good face-off taker, but also can produce a bit offensively. This year, we're kind of seeing that finally at the AHL level, where he's got 7 points in 13 games played, 3 goals, 4 assists. Not bad at all, and is having a pretty decent little bounce-back season after a kind of disappointing one in 2024-25. Next up here, we've got Yaroslav Melash, who of course was already called up by the Rangers this season, got sent back down, but did get to feature in his first career NHL game, which great for him, of course. Impressed enough clearly to get that call up, but in the AHL, so far this season, he does have 11 games played, 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 total points, which is not bad at all. Had an all-right season in 2024-25. He's a bigger 6'5" wing prospect. He, of course, is one of many of those kind of bigger prospects the Rangers have drafted, and of course, we did get to see some of that size and toughness used at the NHL level, where he ended up featuring in a fight as well. So he's obviously someone who's not afraid to mix it up here and there. He did it in his first career NHL game. He can play a pretty physical game, but also has some solid skill as well, so he's an interesting prospect to keep an eye on. Next is Brett Berard, who has 6 assists in 13 games played. He has no goals so far and is having a disappointing start, of course. As of late, has started to do better, but really and truly, him and Brendan Hoffman, who we'll get to in a minute, really just have been very, very disappointing. So It's really unfortunate to see, of course, these are two prospects who, you expect to be kind of the top guys down there in the AHL and just have not been that. Offman this season has 3 assists in 8 games played, no goals. So to see both Offman and Berard have 0 goals is pretty tough. Of course, Offman, was up with the team there, but really and truly, it's just been a pretty tough start. Next up here, we've got Adam Sikora, who has 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists in 13 games played. Another prospect having a disappointing performance. This is another guy who, former second-round pick, isn't old by any means, but is someone who, has had a few seasons now in the AHL at the Wolfpack. You expect to kind of take that next step, and just has not done that, unfortunately. The next prospect we've got here is Jackson Dorrington, who, of course, was picked up in that trade involving JT Miller, where the Rangers sent over Hedel, a first-rounder, and a right-handed defense prospect, Victor Mancini, and they got back, of course, Eric Branson was no longer with the organization, but the main pieces being, of course, JT Miller and Jackson Dorrington, who is a left-handed defenseman, about 6'1", 6'2", decent size there, known as being a kind of two-way defenseman there, not crazy offensively, not kind of pure shutdown guy, a decent kind of two-way defender, some all-right size there. So far this season has 13 games played, 4 assists, 4 points, not too bad at all, isn't doing anything too incredible, but of course I definitely wouldn't say is nearly as disappointing as some of the other prospects like an Offman, Berard, or Sikora. Then you've got Kerry Terrence, who is someone who's having a pretty disappointing start to his pro career. He, of course, was picked up in that trade involving Chris Kreider, where the Rangers got back a kind of draft pick in that kind of swap, and then they got Kerry Terrence. Really and truly, he has not been off to a great start. 2 goals there, 2 points in 13 games played is not too good. Now, it is his first kind of real go at pro hockey there. Of course, he ended up playing his last season of junior there with the Flint Firebirds last season, so you got to cut him a little slack there, and he's not some kind of high-end offensive prospect. He's known as having a good kind of two-way game, being that kind of pest out there, a physical guy, trying to piss the other team off. But of course, you do want to see a little more production than 2 points in 13 games played, which just is not too great. Next up here, you've got Scott Morrow, who is another prospect who unfortunately is disappointing, and he has only 2 points in 11 games played so far, and of course, if you know much about Scott, he is an offensive defenseman, so to see him doing quite poorly right now, points-wise at least, in the AHL is not a great sign. I don't think he's also having too good of a kind of overall impact on the team right now, so definitely another prospect who's having a pretty rough start. And now for the goaltenders here, we've got Dylan Garand, who is the starter in the AHL at the Wolfpack. He's got 9 games played, a 2.81 goals against average, a .902 save percentage, 1 shutout, and a 3-4-2 record. Then you've got the backup, Talon Boyko, a big 6'8" goaltender prospect. He's got 5 games played, a 3.1 goals against average, a .894 save percentage, 0 shutouts, and an 0-2-2 record. So he's got 0 wins on the season there. And that very well could end up being the reason on why they went out there to sign Spencer Martin from the KHL, who was playing for CSKA Moscow. And he obviously left that team there after losing the starting job to an Islanders goalie prospect. And he's now joining the Wolfpack, it seems like, to probably be in a kind of tandem role, I would guess, alongside Dylan Garand, as maybe it just seems like Boyko isn't quite fit for the AHL level as of right now, I guess, which is definitely unfortunate. Next up here, you've got the rest of the prospects that are not currently playing in the AHL. So to start things off, you've got Nathan Aspinall, who currently is playing for the Flint Firebirds in the OHL, and he's got 17 games played, 23 points, 10 goals, 13 assists. He, of course, did get held back a little longer at NHL training camp there, got to feature in a preseason game there. He's a bigger wing prospect, about 6'5", I believe, but definitely a pretty talented overall player and has, some good potential there, so definitely keep an eye on him. Then you've got Mikael Eriksson, who was a 4th round pick from this past draft. He is a pretty skilled Norwegian-born centerman, I believe about 5'11" there, so not the biggest guy in the world, but very skilled, and so far, this season in the U20 Swedish League with Farjestad BK, he's got 22 points in only 14 games played. He's off to a great start, 9 goals, 23 assists. If he keeps this up, I'm sure at some point he will get a call-up pretty soon. Too far just adds SHL team. Next up here, we've got another kind of big wing prospect, and that is Samuel Jung. He is a 6'5" Czechian-born prospect, currently playing over in the U20 Finnish League for Karpat, where he's got 15 points in 17 games played, 9 goals, 6 assists, but does have 1 game played for Karpat's kind of men's team there in the top Finnish league in Liga, so that's a good sign there. You got the call up there, but is an overage prospect. Like, he was taken in this past draft, but was eligible for the previous draft in 2024. So he is an older prospect if you just take a look at kind of which draft he was taken in, but he still is a young prospect that is quite talented, and it is good to see that he did get a chance already in the top Finnish league. Next up is center prospect Raul Boilard, who is known as being a pretty solid kind of playmaker, having a decent two-way game. He is currently playing for the Shawinigan Cataracts in the QMJHL, where he's got 17 games played, 5 goals, 9 assists for 14 total points. Not too bad at all. Next, we've got a prospect who is getting up there in age a little bit there, and that is Brody Lamb. He is currently playing for the University of Minnesota, where he's off to a good start there. 13 games played, 6 goals, 4 assists, 10 points, but he is an older prospect, like I said, has been drafted for quite a while now, so it's not like he's some sophomore or freshman who just got to the college, who just got drafted, is putting up some great numbers. He is a bit older, so this is kind of expected there, but it is still a pretty decent start. Next, you've got Felix Farhamar, who is a kind of puck-moving, sort of two-way defenseman, I guess you could say, that was taken in this past draft, who is currently playing for Orebro HK, their U20 team in the U20 Swedish League, where so far he's off to a good start there, having 9 points, 1 goal, 8 assists in 16 total games played, so not doing too bad at all. Then you've got Malcolm Spence, another college player. This one was taken, of course, in this past draft, though. Second rounder, the top pick of the Rangers from this past draft, and so far he's got, as a freshman, 8 points, 13 games played, 4 goals, 4 assists. Not too bad at all on a team that is obviously stacked with loads of talent there, which is the University of Michigan. And he will be a guy who could potentially end up playing for Team Canada at this upcoming World Juniors. Next, we've got Ty Henriks, another older prospect playing at college right now. He's playing for Western Michigan University, where he does have, as a winger, 11 games played, 8 points, 3 goals, 5 assists. Not too bad at all, but like I said, he is an older prospect, so you kind of really do hope that he's putting up some pretty good numbers, as he's not some kind of freshman or sophomore at this point. Then you've got next up here, Artyom Gonchar, who got off to a really bad start there with the Sudbury Wolves, who have been an awful team in the OHL so far. He, of course, got drafted in this past draft, one of the third rounders that the Rangers had. He ended up coming over from a Russian junior league, the MHL, come over to the North American style game there, which it definitely seemed like it took him a little while to kind of acclimate there and really kind of get adjusted. But as of late, he started to do a whole lot better, where now he's got 4 points, 3 goals, 1 assist in his last 5 games played. Overall, now he's got 18 games played, 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 points as a undersized defenseman who's not very tall, isn't very heavy, isn't super strong, obviously, and is an offensive guy. He is a pure kind of offensive defenseman, has some major issues defensively, so you definitely need to see him producing offensively, so it is a good sign there that it's starting to come around there, at least as of late. Then you've got Zeb Lindgren, another Swedish-born prospect that was taken in this past draft, a defenseman, just like Felix Farhamar, also playing in the U20 Swedish League. He's also kind of a puck-moving sort of two-way defenseman, where so far, for Skellefteå AIK, the U20 team there, he's got 7 points there, 2 goals, 5 assists in 16 games played, which is not too bad at all. Then you've got Drew Fortescue, who's known as being, of course, a pretty good, kind of more shut down, more defensive defenseman sort of prospect there, where with the Boston College so far as that 6'2" left-handed defenseman, he's got 6 points there, 3 goals, 3 assists in 10 games played, and is definitely someone who I fully expect at the end of his college season this year to join the Wolfpack probably at some point. Next is defenseman E.J. Emery, who is known as being more of a kind of shutdown guy who is really athletic and quite physical, great skater, and obviously last season there did not put up many points, so people really kind of talked about it a whole lot, but this season so far with the University of North Dakota, he's off to a phenomenal start there where he's got 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists in 10 games played, as a sophomore, his second season at the college level, and of course, he is known as being a shutdown kind of guy. So seeing these kind of numbers offensively is definitely a nice thing to see. Next here, we've got Sean Barnhill, who is currently playing for Michigan State University. He's a big shutdown defenseman, really more of a defensive guy, and so far he does have, though, 2 points, 2 assists in 9 games played, which is not bad at all. Then you've got Rico Gredig, who is someone I'm really just not sure why the Rangers took him. There was never much information on this prospect. Doesn't seem like he was really ranked at all by anyone, and he ended up getting taken in the later rounds, of course, a year or two ago. I think in 2024, I believe it was. But it's just someone who hasn't done a whole lot there this season so far with HC Davos in the Swiss League. He does have 2 assists there, 2 points in 20 games played. So unless he's some great defensive forward, which I kind of doubt, he just doesn't seem like a very good prospect at this point, unfortunately. Then you've got Evan Passmore, who is a shutdown defenseman, but is really having a kind of weird year where he's only got 1 point, 1 goal in 20 games played with the Barrie Colts in the OHL, which is obviously a drop-off from last season there, so really kind of tough start. I mean, obviously he is a shutdown guy, so you want to see him doing pretty good defensively, which it seems like he's done all right in, but offensively, he's brought pretty much nothing, which is kind of surprising because he didn't put up that bad of numbers last season. Then you've got Rasmus Larsson, who's currently playing for Robert Morris University, low-tier prospect, only 3 games played, not really much to say about him. So that is pretty much going to do it for today's video. If you all have enjoyed, I definitely hope you do hit that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content. I don't obviously talk about prospects every day, but I figured every once in a while we'll make a video talking about these New York Rangers prospects as they're the future of this team. So hopefully some of these guys end up, becoming way better than initially kind of thought to be, of course. A guy like EJ Emery, someone who had a really bad kind of initial season after being drafted by the Rangers. A lot of people were down on him. Well, now he's got 4 points, 10 games played, 2 goals, 2 assists as a shutdown, 6'5", elite skating defenseman. So I think there's a lot more to give out of him, obviously. He's a high-end prospect. There is a lot of talent with some of these guys, of course, but it's now about kind of developing them once they actually get to the AHL and NHL level, which the Rangers have definitely had a pretty tough time doing. So, anyways, thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, like I said, hit that like and subscribe button. Don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on today's video and on these prospects as a whole. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.